Alright, here we go again, folks. I'm Professor Seth Monahan, and you are watching video number 15 in my series on the basics of classical harmony and counterpoint. Now, today's video is going to be pretty short, but it deals with a hugely important topic. Voice leading the dominant 7th chord, 5-7, to tonic in root position. Now, before we tackle anything new, let's take stock of what we already know about 5-7. In the most basic terms, we know that 5-7 is a major-minor 7th chord built on the dominant scale degree in both major and minor keys. So here are all the triads that occur naturally in C major, and here we're adding an upper third to the dominant triad, changing it from this to this, and making a dominant 7th chord. Now we also know that in minor, we're not going to get the chord quality we want unless we raise the chordal third to make it a leading tone. So here we are, magically changing this to C minor, and now you'll see that the chord needs to have a B natural in it. Otherwise it would sound like this, and it would not be a dominant 7th chord. What else do we know? Well, we know from video 11 that the dominant usually resolves to the tonic chord, and that it often does so in the context of authentic cadences, making this one of the most common and one of the most important chords in the style. Knowing how to resolve 5-7 to 1 is a baseline skill for getting around in the classical style. So what else do we need to know about 5-7? Well, to start, you should know that it's made from scale degrees 5, 7, 2, and 4 of whatever key you're in. And I'm going to put these on the game board over here, over on the right. 5, 7, 2, and 4. All throughout the video, I'm going to use the diagram on the right to show scale degree motions kind of in the abstract, but I'm also going to give you an example in C major to make it more concrete. So let's build our 5-7 in keyboard style in C major right here in the center of the screen. We'll put the root in the left hand. Let's put the leading tone in the top voice. That's our red chordal third. And then between them, we can put the chordal 5th in blue and the chordal 7th in yellow. And when you hear that, I know you know it wants to go here. And it will. Now here's the thing. If you've been watching the videos carefully, I'm sure you could have figured out what scale degrees were in the dominant 7th chord without a lot of trouble. But that's not going to be enough from this point forward, because you need to memorize what scale degrees are in this chord, and moreover, to be aware of precisely where those scale degrees are when you're using 5-7, because the various scale degrees of this chord tend to have special jobs. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's start by noticing that two of the chord's tones, scale degrees 7 and 4, make a tritone together. That's to say, an augmented 4th or a diminished 5th, depending on how we place them. That tritone makes 5-7 one of the more dissonant 7th chords you're going to come across, and it gives it that powerful urge to resolve to a stable tonic. And when that resolution happens, the notes of the tritone play a special job, because they're both known as tendency tones. This means that they have a strong melodic tendency to move in certain ways. So let's look at the scale degree chart on the right. When we move to tonic, scale degree 4, the chordal 7th, wants strongly to resolve down by step to the chordal third of the tonic. And that's true regardless of what voice it appears in. If it's in the top voice, if it's in an inner voice, 4 wants to go down to 3. As you already know, scale degree 7, the leading tone, wants to push upward to tonic. In fact, if we play the notes of that tritone resolving to their destinations, it gives us an instant sense of what key we're in. When I do that, your ear almost puts in the bass line automatically. So let's look at this now in our C major example in the center of the screen. In our dominant, the yellow scale degree 4 in the right hand, F, has to go down to E, while the red leading tone in the right hand pinky wants to go up to scale degree 1. Now, what about the other voices in the chord? Well, since we're only dealing with root position chords in this video, we know that the bass is going to either fall by 5th or rise by 4th to land on the tonic. So there's that. And it's really only scale degree 2, which I'm showing here in blue, that has any real options. It can, in theory, move up by step to scale degree 3 or down by step to scale degree 1. They're both part of the tonic chords. I think unless there's some reason to do otherwise, it should usually proceed downward by step. Now, if it didn't jump out at you from the music notation itself, the scale degree diagram on the right makes it really clear that something perhaps unexpected has happened. We took all the notes in 5/7 where they were supposed to go, and we ended up with an incomplete tonic chord. We've got 3 instances of scale degree 1 and a chordal third, but no chordal 5th G. Now, in the last video, I told you that you should generally avoid incomplete chords in keyboard style, but that there were also some exceptions, and this is one of them. It is, in fact, totally fine in this circumstance to have an incomplete tonic chord. Indeed, given the way we just voiced our 5/7, there was actually no other option. Now, at first, this strikes a lot of students as just a little bit weird, right? We have this most common chord progression in the whole classical style, but somehow you can't pull it off with 2 complete chords. Well, it's a real thing, and I'm warning you so you don't go crazy trying to do the impossible. That said, there are a few workarounds. So let's say you really want to have a complete tonic chord. One option is just to use an incomplete dominant instead. And you do this the same way we made an incomplete tonic chord in our first example. You omit the chordal 5th. In the dominant, that's scale degree 2. You omit the chordal 5th and replace it with an extra instance of the root. And the reason we double the root and not some other note in the dominant chord is that all the other notes are tendency tones, and you can't double a tendency tone because it has to move to a certain place, and if you have 2 of them doing it at the same time, you're going to get parallel octaves or parallel unisons. So let's try this out on the scale degree chart. We start by removing our chordal 5th, scale degree 2, and then we add an extra root, or scale degree 5. And remember, this scale degree diagram doesn't tell us anything about where these notes are placed. So when I put the extra scale degree 5 on the bottom, that's just for convenience. I'm not saying that it's somehow now like a new bass voice. This is just tracking scale degree motions in the abstract. If we want real music, we look at the center of the screen, notated in C. Anyway, the nice thing about this extra scale degree 5 is that it doesn't have to do anything at all. Since it's a common tone with the tonic chord, and since it's not in the bass voice, so doesn't have to move, we can just leave it right where it is, and we get a complete tonic rather than an incomplete one. So over in C major, this would just mean adding an extra G to our right hand and leaving it right where it was when we resolved. It's also easier to play, too. Now, believe it or not, there's a third resolution option, and this one includes a trick that lets you have both 5/7 and tonic as complete chords. Both 5/7 and tonic can be complete if the leading tone is in an inner voice and then it leaps downward by third to scale degree 5. We call this springing downward. Let's try this out on the scale degree chart. First, we're going to get rid of our extra root and reinstate scale degree 2. So now we've got our complete 5/7. And now we're going to make some room for ourselves because, as I mentioned, scale degree 7 is no longer going to go up to 1. It's going to leap down to scale degree 5. It springs down to the chordal 5th, and now we have 2 complete chords. All we had to do was break the spirit of the leading tone and deprive it of its strongest desire. Now, to see why this works, let's move over to our C major notation. And we're going to add scale degree 2 back in, putting it in the top voice now, because remember, to spring our leading tone, it has to be in an inner voice. Okay? So based on the diagram on the right, we can see that all of our voices in the right hand, blue, red, and yellow, are all going to go downward. Scale degree 2 is going to resolve to 1. Scale degree 7, our sprung leading tone, is going to leap down to 5. And scale degree 4 is going to go down to 3. And it sounds like this all together. And there's no problem here with us moving in similar motion to the bass because there aren't any bad parallels. So now that we have our notation on screen, it's easy to see why the sprung leading tone works. Because very often in keyboard style, when you spring your leading tone away from the tonic, some other voice will move into place and sit on the tonic that the leading tone would have resolved to. So although our red B technically leaps down to G, the D above it resolves to the C that the leading tone would have gone to. So what we get is a kind of sonic illusion. If you really focus your hearing on the leading tone, you can almost hear it resolving even though it doesn't actually do so. So that's all for today. I want to end with just a quick summary. So first, when you're resolving 5/7, you have to pay attention to where your tendency tones are. You have to know where they are and what they're supposed to do. There's the chordal 7th, that's scale degree 4, which always resolves downward. That produces a motion from scale degree 4 to scale degree 3. And then there's the leading tone, which can go up by step or spring down to scale degree 5 if it's in an inner voice. And I should stress here, the sprung leading tone is only an option in root position 5/7 chords. When we start doing inverted 5/7s in a few more videos, we're not going to be able to spring our leading tone, so don't get too used to it. The other main takeaway today is that there are 3 options for spelling and resolving 5/7, and we've seen all 3 of them here. You can have a complete 5/7 move to an incomplete tonic, one whose chordal 5th is omitted. Or you can omit the chordal 3rd from 5/7 and have an incomplete dominant resolve to a complete tonic. It's very easy voice leading. Or both chords can be complete provided that your leading tone is in an inner voice and it springs down to 5 instead of moving up to 1. And finally, I want to stress that although all my examples were in C major, everything I've said here is equally true in minor. You just have to not forget to raise scale degree 7 so that 5/7 has a true leading tone and is a proper dominant quality chord. So that's all for now. That's a lot of attention to one short progression, but you're going to see it a lot and you should really know it inside and out. In our next video, we'll pick up the pace a bit and learn one of the most basic principles of chord connection in the classical style, the idea of harmonic function. I hope to see you there.